Today, on episode 426 of the Working Cows podcast, we're talking to Neil Thorsteinson from Range Ward and Powerflex. We're going to talk to him about the quality of the products that they offer.
Our power braid electrically tested from a big ag college here in Alberta, and it come back second only behind high tensile wire for conductivity and resistance. So we're pretty proud of it.
The versatility of the products they offer.
Ambidextrous, like you can use the whole kit to simply cut a cross fence across a quarter section, say, or you can buy enough rope and product to go around a quarter section where you have no fence on that quarter, but or maybe it's a cattleman that is short on pasture and his row crop friend down the road has something that he could rent, but it's got no fences on him.
As well as how necessity is the mother of invention and how some of these products came to exist.
This fire come through and burnt up a bunch of his fence, permanent and otherwise. And so he obviously needed something to keep his cattle in. He looked around to see if there was some sort of a portable temporary electric fencing unit to purchase and get back on the road, but there wasn't. And of course, like a lot of ranchers, it being innovative, pivot quickly. He's an inventor of sorts. So he went ahead and built himself 2 trailers at that time and started using them in his day-to-day stuff, and neighbors started seeing them, and like a lot of entrepreneur stories go, started building them, and a business was born. And
all that and more on this episode of the Working Cows podcast, brought to you by Powerflex and Range Ward.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Howdy, everybody. It's Clay Connery, host of the Working Cows podcast, recorded exclusively in the Understanding Ag studios. This episode, we're joined by Neil Thorsteinson, as I said, of Range Ward and Powerflex, and we're going to talk to him about how he got started in the industry, some of the lessons that he's learned over the years, as well as some of the new things that Range Ward and Powerflex are doing to serve the producers in this industry. We'll have that discussion with Neil right after this word from our sponsor today, Range Ward. Range Ward builds all-in-one solar-powered electric fencing machines for the serious grazer. Their units feature powered reels, built-in solar chargers, and step-in post storage, saving you labor costs, increasing your profitability, and enabling you to spend your time on other projects. Range Ward's time-saving machines can be found on hundreds of thousands of acres across Canadian and U.S. pastures, ranging from small hobby or homestead farms to massively privately owned and corporately run pastures and grazing co-ops. Every unit is designed from the ground up to include feedback from working producers and is built in Range Ward's advanced manufacturing facilities in the U.S. and Canada. Range Ward offers a full lineup of fencing solutions, from the Power Grazer, capable of handling 30 miles of fencing, to the all-new Power Reel, delivering Range Ward quality and efficiency in a lower-cost package that will mount to an ATV or side-by-side. To learn more, visit rangeward.com. Neil, thanks for joining me today on the Working Cows podcast.
Hi there, Clay. How you doing? Glad to be here.
Yeah, doing real good. Spring is in the air, and always a good time to think about how we're going to approach infrastructure and some of those things in this season. And so going to talk a little bit today about that and some of the things that you've been seeing. And we were just talking a little bit before we got going here that you and I met 5 years ago at the Holistic Management Canada conference. I was there speaking, and that was my first speaking gig related to the podcast. And you were there kind of fresh at your position with Range Ward back at that time. So I'm sure a lot of opportunities to observe different types of operations and different ways of implementing the tools there that Range Ward has, and now part of the Powerflex family as well. So can you tell me a little bit about kind of some of the things you've seen over the years from that perspective of people implementing these tools?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that was it seems like a long time ago, but also seems just like yesterday. I started with Range Ward as the sales manager in Canada there about 5 years ago, and that was one of the very first events or organized gatherings that original owner Norm Ward had sent me to. Education purposes. We didn't have a display or a I wasn't presenting at the day at all. I was there strictly for education purposes, and the new guy on the block was absolutely drinking from the fire hose at that time. There's so much knowledge. What a great group of leaders in that whole regenerative ag holistic management group, right? So it
Yeah.
was
Well,
talking
and
to a lot of people and learning on the go.
yeah, you talk about getting thrown into the deep end of the pool. I think Alan Savory would say that Holistic Management Canada group is one of the most aggressive and successful adopters of his principles that he had ever seen. And so, I mean, you for an endorsement like that from Alan Savory, and then your first week on the job is their conference, that's the deep end of the pool right there for
Yeah,
sure.
that's jumping straight in. That's also the same first conference or same conference that I met Don and Bluesette Campbell
Yep.
and learned all about them and all of that stuff, right? So it
Yep.
was kind of.
At least they had one rookie speaker there to share. That was good. That was good of them.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, since then, that's 5 years ago, and I've been with the company for that long, and watched, been along for the ride as we grew, and met a ton of people, and it's just they say you never work a day in your life if you like your job, and that's kind of what we do. I love the people that we work with. I mean, to talk about the grassroots or the salt of the earth clientele that we have the pleasure of working with, right? It's been fantastic. Great learning. I was my wife and I just we conventional or we custom graze in the summertime at our place, and for years leading up to that, it was pretty much just pasture renters. Like we weren't just grazing conventionally and blindly making mistakes. And then like I say, I get this job and I get sent to some conferences and start learning some stuff and realize how backwards I'm doing things, or just like I said, just blindly working, and started changing some things and using some really cool tools to do it, and seeing some changes being made on our small scale operation.
Yeah, for sure. Well, talk to me about that. What are some of the things that you started out with, and how have you seen kind of improvements over time?
Well, the biggest, actually, the thing that I was most proud of, my biggest achievement so far. I mean, I've seen the grass change over a little bit on our place. It's old grass. I think we've improved on it by grazing a little bit differently than I used to. But the very first thing I'd noticed year over year, or first year doing it versus the last year of conventionally grazing, was the even carryover that I left behind at the end of the season. So, like I say, just conventionally grazing and not really knowing what I was doing prior to that. Not that I'm a pro now, but I mean, just making some changes. I would bring the cattle off the field at the end of that last year, and I had, tall, gross, woody stuff, and then I got some stuff over there that's been grazed right to the dirt, and very, very ununiform finish to the field after I left. The first year of managing my grazing, I was able to take the cattle off the field with a nice, whatever, 6 or 8 inches of carryover pretty much the whole way across the field. And in that first year, we just have about 120 acres out of a quarter section that we rotate. That year was about 45 pair, I think, and moved them something like 35 times around that quarter. So they'd be on the paddocks about average 3 or 4 days, 3 or 4 acre paddocks kind of thing. So just making that one little change, just moving them a couple of days a couple of times a week, made that was the first change that I noticed, first improvement that I'd noticed.
Yeah, very similar experience, probably about the same time when I was starting to make some of my own management decisions, and just seeing getting to see things happen that people had told me would happen for all those years before, when I was doing the podcast and not able to make all the decisions that I wanted to, and yeah, just seeing them go in there and clip off the tops, take the top third of everything, and then you're ready to move them to the next one, and that opportunity for recovery and all those things. And yeah, so what have been some of the principles that have kind of guided or that you've seen guide others as well, and kind of some of the results from that, like the way that they're approaching their graze period and their recovery period and some of those things? What have been some of those principles and benefits?
Well, I just think that there's over time, over the last 5 or 10 years, there's just a lot more awareness and education, happening out there for producers to take part in and learn and make some changes on their landscape. And just by adopting a few, adaptive grazing practices, they're willing, or they're able to, year over year, see improvement from one year to the next, just in the not even making big changes, just some small changes, and things start improving. Of course, you need
Yeah.
some rain, um, but a lot of times, like we see, well, I'll just say that in the droughty years that we've been seeing, you can see who grazes in a
Mm.
really managed way versus who doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. You don't, droughts don't necessarily have to be a step backwards, if you're paying attention. Now, you might be making a withdrawal from the account, but you've been making deposits all these years ahead of it. And so now you have that margin to make the withdrawal, right?
Right. Yeah. Little room for error, or a little buffer zone, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things that I've become aware of since the ability to partner with Powerflex and Range Ward is the Rancher Success Program. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, it's cool. It's really just formalizing something that we've been doing anyways, right? Our equipment specialists here at Range Ward or Powerflex, or we're just talking to producers about how to use the equipment. We talk for a long time to determine infrastructure, what they're going to need on their place based on their land, their water, where it's situated, the animals they're using, the size of their acreage or the size of their property. So we have all those conversations, and then we start narrowing down, what equipment is most suitable for their operation and how to get it, how to access it, where it is closest to them, their nearest dealer, or going to be delivered, that kind of thing. So there's this we've always had that conversation anyways, just by picking up the phone and receiving these phone calls. But now we're trying to, this year we're going to be making it a little bit more formal, making an actual program out of it, where we're going to be well, like I said, just making a little bit more formal of it. And maybe we bring on somebody that specializes in the ag grants that's available on a national level. Maybe they know stateside, like state level grants as well. Maybe there's information or education we can be passing on to the producers in these phone calls, that kind of thing. Yeah, really, it's just kind of formalizing what we've already been doing, but now we're going to tagline it the Rancher Success Program and put a little bit more structure around it.
Sure. And it's mostly, coaching related to infrastructure development, or are there other pieces to it?
Yeah, it's mostly around infrastructure. Like, that's where it started from. And I mean, all the infrastructure, we're talking the perimeter fence, permanent reverses, or not perimeter, or permanent, cross fencing situations that might be taking place inside this operation, what they're going to be needing for gates, temporary or permanent water supply to their fields. Like I say, Powerflex has a huge water side to them as well. pipe, fittings, solar pump, all of that stuff. So whether it's permanent or temporary, Powerflex has that to draw from as well. So literally right from the nuts and bolts to the water systems, to temporary machines, to hand reels, to permanent perimeter stuff. Rangeward and Powerflex can help them. And like I say, it all comes from just that conversation with the producer, helping them, consulting with them, figuring out what they need to help their operation be successful, and obviously capitalize on get as much profit out of their operation as possible.
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, Powerflex. Powerflex Supply is far from another big box store. They're staffed by expert ranchers who use everything they sell in their own pastures. Those same experts enable Powerflex Supply to offer the Rancher Success Program, a free service that will help you develop your grazing infrastructure plan down to the specific products you need for your livestock species, region, style of grazing, and budget. For 25 years, Powerflex Supply has been guided by one rule. If their employees won't use a product on their own pastures, they won't sell it to you. That means the permanent and portable electric fencing, livestock water systems, and rotational grazing supplies they do stock have been hand-selected to be the best you can get. Powerflex Supply is a leading North American distributor of Gallagher, O'Brien's, Speedrite, Strainrite, and many more. And if they couldn't find an existing product, Powerflex Supply makes it themselves, including their legendary Super 9 polybraid and rugged spinning Jenny. Visit powerflexsupply.com to get started. Yeah, can you talk to me about a little bit about kind of some of the surprising ways you've seen those tools used?
That's part of the cool job, is after I deliver equipment to a new customer who's happy. Usually, they're pretty excited to get their new razor grazer or whatever machine they bought. So I always try to stay as close to them as possible and ask for pictures and follow up questions and conversations. And oh yeah, for sure. Like we're seeing them in everything from, like we say, big landscape stuff, southern Saskatchewan and Alberta, huge ranches down there where that's a real good spot for our power grazers. We're seeing them being used up in forested areas, mountainous areas, out on row crop land after harvest. They're getting very creative where they're using like the part of the razor grazer is the electric reel. The power arm on the back of the machine is detachable from the rest of the cart. So buying a razor grazer is very ambidextrous. Like you can use the whole kit, so just to simply cut a cross fence across a quarter section, say, or you can buy enough rope and product to go around a quarter section where you have no fence on that quarter, but maybe it's a cattleman that is short on pasture, and his row crop friend down the road has something that he could rent, but it's got no fences on him, right? So now the cattleman can buy enough product to get around that 2-mile perimeter, and then so now he's got that rentable quarters available to him. But then maybe he wants to manage the grazing in that quarter as well. So now he can take the power arm off the back of the razor grazer and strip graze or cut that quarter in quarters or however he wants to, right? So it's really a 2-in-1 machine. Talking about them being used in different areas and different scenarios. We just the way things are going. I mean, as a country, as a nation, we're seeing more and more fall and winter grazing. Obviously, processing feed and feeding processed feed is expensive. And when we can grow more grass and keep them out on stockpile forage, or be more inventive in grazing cover crops later into the fall, or swath grazing, bale grazing, all of the above. Corn stalk grazing is huge, is coming on so big around where I'm from now. I think people just start thinking outside the box, and then they start looking for ways to be efficient in doing that. So when they have cool tools, they can be saving on days that they're not starting their tractor, right? So it doesn't take long to become, when you've got efficient ways of doing things like that, they can be quickly getting a quick ROI on investments like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly. You mentioned starting with range ward and was it Vern? What was the last or the first name of the gentleman who Norm Ward? Yep.
Norm Ward. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So he started the company about 17 years ago, I think 2008. He and his wife ranched at that time in southern Alberta, down by Granham, Alberta, and like I said at the start, he's been heavy into holistic management and regenerative agriculture for a long time, and again, he's one of the leaders, in my opinion, in our area, and teaches people and whatnot. So he was grazing in that way at that time, and a big grass fire went through their place and burnt up a ton of their fence. And he was using, electric fence to move his cattle, rotationally graze his cattle at that point. And but anyways, this fire come through and burnt up a bunch of his fence, permanent and otherwise. And so he obviously needed something to keep his cattle in. He looked around to see if there was some sort of a portable temporary electric fencing unit to purchase and get back on the road, but there wasn't. And of course, like a lot of ranchers, it being innovative, pivot quickly, right? So he's an inventor of sorts. So he went ahead and built himself one, or maybe I think actually two. He built two trailers at that time, and got them, started using them in his day-to-day stuff, and neighbors started seeing them, and like a lot of entrepreneur stories go, started building them, and a business was born, and away it went. That first machine was our flagship machine called our Power Grazer. And then over the years, we've got a lot of different machines that stemmed from that. About 10 years later, I wasn't with the company at that point, but 10 years after that, approximately, he invented the smaller razor grazer, also a single strand fence for cattle, just a smaller version of the Power Grazer. And I asked him how that come about at one point, like, well, why the razor grazer? Like the Power Grazer seemed to do the trick, right? And it was really because the Power Grazer was a little bit overkill for a lot of the clients that or potential clients he could be working with, right? So he just pushed them into a little bit smaller machine for smaller landscapes, right?
So can you just walk me through kind of how some of these systems work? I imagine they're all kind of similar, but maybe more the other ones are smaller versions of the big one. So are they freewheel as I stretch the cable out, and then they're powered to reel it up? Is that right?
The Power Grazer itself comes fully equipped to fence 2 miles of single strand electric fence, and but with that Energizer, and it'll be easily 10, maybe 10, 20 miles kind of thing, and maybe even up to 30. I don't know. I've never seen that, but yeah, so that's our big machine. It carries, and it's got everything you need to build 2 miles of fence. And then, like I say, call it 10 years later, the Razor Grazer was born, and smaller scale Power Grazer type machine set up for a half mile is the base kit. Excuse me. So both machines will do way more than the half mile and the 2 miles. We just keep adding rope and posts until the rancher's got what he needs, right?
Right.
And some of the materials on all of our machines, something we're really proud of is our rope, which we call Power Braid reflective rope. It's big diameter, it's 1/4 inch, and it's actually it's built out of the same stuff as rock climbing rope, so it's very durable, meant to be, possibly rolled out and rolled up a couple of times a day, potentially. It's also got a reflective band braided into the mixture, which catches the sunshine in the daytime, kind of sparkles like diamonds out there, and then at nighttime it really catches your headlights so that you can see the fences. And not only is it more visible for people, obviously we're glad that it's super visible for livestock, and then we've seen huge decreases in wildlife impact when switching over from, your high tensile wire, your aircraft cable, your small diameter poly braid, all good products, just potentially nearly invisible. So we put
Right.
something up in front of them that they can see, and we have less strikes. So
Hmm.
we actually even had that our power braid electrically tested from a big ag college here in Alberta, and it come back second only behind high tensile wire for conductivity and resistance. So we're pretty proud of it, and it's on our power grazer and our razor grazer, and an adapt or a version or a revision of the razor grazer that we call the Bison razor grazer.
Hmm.
Put our power braid on the Bison machine as well. About 3 or 4 years ago, we pivoted again to meet customer demand and built a machine called a Bison razor grazer, obviously intended for bison, and then a power shepherd for our sheep and goat producers that sets up a 4-strand fence with Powerflex's Super 9 wire being the electric fence wire that we put on the sheep machine.
Sure.
Yeah.
So is that power braid, is that a larger diameter than the Super 9, just to give people a sense? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's a full 1/4 inch in diameter, where Super 9 is 7/64, I believe, or call it an 1/8 of an inch in diameter.
I see.
So it's twice as big too. So not only do you have multicolor, like it's white and green,
Mm.
and you have the reflective band in it, you also have a big 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch diameter product out
Yeah.
the pigtails. So yeah, that's 100%. Yep. So it works really good when two people are working together. And I mean, it's all the machines. I can just speak generally about all the machines. This would be how you would use all of them. Um, of course, in a little bit different scenarios or circumstances with each machine, but in generally, you would hook the gate handle on the perimeter fence, disengage the reel of power braid rope on the back of the machine, and one person is driving the side by side or pickup truck, whatever they're pulling the machine with. Somebody else is walking along behind, putting stepping the pigtails in the ground and putting the rope in the pigtails. And you know, easy speaking, we're just cutting a quarter in half. Now you've gone a half a mile. You're at the other boundary fence. So this is where we're going to stop the machine. We'll take the power braid off the power arm, electric reel off the machine. We'll put it on the ground beside the fence post we're going to tie off to. Our reels are made of plastic, so they're insulated on the ground. But we also have tools called a reel stand that producers love. This reel stand because you mount the reel stand, you hang the reel stand on the fence post, and then put your leftover reel on the reel stand. So it gets it up out of the snow if we're winter grazing, gets it out of the stockpile grass that's laying in that is potentially could be laying in, and just keeps your fence line nice and tidy. So that's at the end of the fence line. Then we would take the power hammer ground rod that comes with with all of our machines. It's a slide hammer on it, so we slide hammered it into the ground. Everything on all of our machines, all of the electrical is pre-done, pre-wired. So we would just be hooking the ground clamp to the ground, hot lead over to the fence. You just tightened off to the perimeter fence post, and turn the energizer on, and don't touch it anymore because that's not funny. Yeah.
It'll make you regret it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I when I was early on in my electric fencing career, I was pretty sure that I was developing electric fence PTSD. Like, I just didn't want to be near it, didn't want to touch it, didn't want to look at it. Like, it make me twinge. I've gotten better about not touching it. I think I've been zapped about every way you can be zapped. My best story is I was trying to fix the water, and I had temporary water running under the fence line, and so I've got my hand in the water, and I touched the brim of my straw hat, which had metal in it, to the wire, and it zapped me.
Oh, geez.
With my hand in the water, so I was well grounded.
Yeah, you're probably down on the ground there too.
Right,
So
exactly, on my knees. Yeah, it was good. That was a good one. But anyways, yeah.
I've got
So
some good ones too.
yeah. So then there's the powered reel to reel it back up, and that is all just run off of the battery and the power system that is solarly controlled. So you're not dealing with, is that how that works, I guess?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. The power plant portion of all of the machines is like the Razor Grazer family all has a toolbox, if you will, at the front of the cart. And inside that toolbox is our Energizer. At this point, we're using Patriot's P30 Energizer. We've had great luck with it, and we've been using it for about 4 years now. So that's the Energizer in the toolbox. Also in there, we're going to find the 12-volt heavy-duty deep cycle AGM battery and a charge controller. On top of the pigtail post rack is the 50-watt solar panel. So the solar panel goes through the charge controller, charges the battery. Battery obviously supplies power to the Energizer. The battery also supplies power to the electric motor on the back end of the Razor Grazer to roll up the rope when it's time to move on. So yeah, solar panel, battery, running the two different electric devices on the cart, and we as we like to do, we possibly over engineer a little bit, and we've put oversized panels on all of our equipment. Like I said, we use a 3-joule Energizer in the Razor Grazer series. That would require a 30-watt panel. We put a 50-watt panel on that family. And then in our Power Grazer, we use a 6-joule Energizer, which would require a 60-watt panel. Well, we put a 150-watt panel on that machine. Typically, like the reason we went so big on the Power Grazer is the Razor Grazer as well, but more so on the Power Grazers. We know it's going to be going into large service, and we just really don't want to be shorting the system on any charge hours or charging surface area. So we just maybe went with the bigger is better idea for the charging system. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, where we originated is in northern Canada, so we have less charging hours than even you in South Dakota.
Right. Yep. Some of those days get pretty short, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Make the most of every minute of sunlight you got. So that's really good. That's
some
helpful.
areas only have like 4 hours a day. So in northern Alberta, that's what they're looking at. So
right.
Not so much where I'm from, but yeah, that's what we deal with. Yep. Real quick, we're really excited. We're bringing on a new machine here just this spring. We're just beginning to launch it. Actually, it'll be a hard launch middle of June or so. We're going to call it the Power Reel. It's essentially, again, shrunk down version of our machines to meet yet another line of clientele, right? Where it's going to be an electric power arm, similar to the electric reel that's on our Razor Grazer, only a smaller scale version of it. It'll come complete with a half a mile of Powerflex's Super 9. It'll come with either a half joule or a full joule Patriot solar Energizer, and then one of our power hammer ground rods. So it's another all-on-board kit, which we specialize in. We really, we focus on being, all on board, equipped, ready to go to the field. And so now we're launching this Power Reel this spring here to meet that small scale hobby farmer, or maybe like a homestead size operation, or even, it does a half a mile too. So maybe it's a real quick cross fence for the producer as well too. So.
Right. Well, and folks in the East, those are a lot smaller places, a lot more productive, and I have friends in Eastern South Dakota, even only 300-400 miles east of me. They run cows on 3 acres a year, cow-calf pair on 3 acres a year, and so we run a cow-calf pair on 30 to 40 acres a year, and so, it just takes a lot less land, and you can have a lot more permanent divisions in those areas. That it makes sense to have more permanent divisions in those areas. And so some of the subdivisions that you do within your permanent stuff doesn't need to be as big, doesn't need to be 2 miles. Whereas as I've daydreamed looking across the fence at the neighbor's place and thought, what would I do if I got my hands on that? And, something like the Power Grazer makes sense there, where it's 2 miles in some of those places from one barbed wire fence to the next. Right. And so it would make sense to have something like that there. So yeah, just kind of different contexts, right? Different people are going to do things differently depending on the context that they find themselves in, and so continuing to innovate to meet demand for sure, is an important piece of that puzzle. What has been some of the reception over the years? Some of the different people that have used the product, some of the experience that they've had, and kind of the way that it's been received by different people that have used it over the years.
Well, the reception is always good, in the way that people are intrigued by it. Maybe they've never seen the trailer before. I hear all the time, like I do a lot of events, different shows and conferences where we set up and give presentations. So it's fun to do those because we get really cool, customer feedback or producer feedback where they've never seen the trailer before and they're kind of excited to see it. Um, they've maybe they have seen it before, but not in real life. So now now they actually get to kick the tires rather than just watch YouTube videos. And then the other person we see at the shows are the producers that are using them. Always good feedback. Nobody's ever disappointed they bought a machine. They're using it in ways that they've never dreamt about it. Typically, the way it goes is a producer will purchase one, for one or two tasks that they've got in mind. And then they get it home and they see how versatile they are and what they could be doing with it. And, the sky's the limit. It's literally whatever you can imagine or how you can use these tools on your land to improve the way you're doing things. So that's exciting for them. And it's always really good feedback. I bought the machine to do this and now I'm doing this, and this. So that's always good feedback.
Yeah, for sure. So the power grazer, the razor grazer, and the bison grazer are all trailer mounted units. Is that right?
Yep. Every one of our machines is, you can tow it with anything with a 2-inch ball. I just have a small 350 quad. I don't have a big side by side, and I have a old farm truck. So my little quad pulls the razor grazer around just fine. You'd probably want a larger quad than a 350 to pull the power grazer, but all of them are ATV pullable. Anything with a 2-inch ball. We sell our power arm electric reels independently as well too. So maybe there's a producer that totally set up with great permanent infrastructure, but they want to become more efficient or use different tools than conventional hand reels. They want a electric roller upper, as I hear all the time, and they'll buy a electric power arm to use within their infrastructure, right? So in that case, that power arm would just install into the hitch tube of your quad or your pickup truck, and then you can cross fence inside the high tensile wire you've got in place. So, and it would be the same scenario with our new incoming power reel. It installs into the hitch tube of your quad or side by side, and it's got the small energizer and a ground rod to go with it. And yeah, so
sure.
Very portable, self-contained units.
Yeah, and these are all these trailer mounted units something that you can pull out on the gravel road or the highway, or are you going to be wanting to do mostly just internal stuff, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, no, they're pasture implements is what they are. So they're not meant to be pulled down the road. I mean, going from one pasture to the next down the county road everybody does that. But they're not technically classed as trailers because that opens up the other registration and wiring and, lights, brakes, all that stuff. So they're a pasture implement. Recommend hauling them to where you're going to use them. And then of course, pulling them around your pasture with a quad or side by side. The power grazer is built, it's twice as heavy as the razor grazer, of course, and it's also got a torsion axle under it. So it's got a little bit of suspension, and it hugs the ground a little bit more because it's heavier, right? So it handles those rougher terrains a little bit better than the razor grazer. I usually have a conversation with the producer as they're, coming into the idea of buying a machine. We're going to talk about what the land looks like they're going to be operating on it. Is it, pretty much flat? Is it up and down? Is it a lot of side hill stuff? Or, maybe they only need to go a half a mile or a mile, but the area that they're working in is more, conducive to a power grazer than a razor grazer. So we'd have that talk and try to fix them up with the right machine. And both machines, they can be loaded onto a trailer and carried to wherever they're going as well. There's a lift lug on the razor grazer family, and then there's fork pockets on the power grazer to put it on the trailer. It's actually got 3-point hitch pins on the power grazer as well too. So one of our big clients in Canada, in British Columbia, it's BC Cattlemen's Association and also BC Ministry of Forests, use our power grazers in the southern part of the province, in obviously rougher terrain, and they really like the 3-point hitch setup because they can put it on a small tractor and carry it around rather than worrying about the machine pushing them down the hill on a side-by-side kind of scenario, right? So
Sure.
pretty versatile. And
you mentioned having an electric roller upper. My son has gotten way down the rabbit hole of leather working and doing his own leather tooling and stuff. And we went and picked him up a new sewing machine the other day. And this gal, her husband had passed away, unfortunately, but she was, his tools. She was happy to see him go to a young person who was passionate about the craft. And he had rigged up this whole system where he could hold his shoulders and his elbows up and still tool leather. And, some health issues on top of many years of doing leather work had kind of worn out his shoulders and his elbows. I wonder how many 20 years from now, 50 years from now, we're going to see old grazers with worn out elbows and shoulders from reeling up so much fence over the years. And here you come. Here comes Range Ord with the electric, with the power reel. So that's nice to have for sure.
Yeah, it's a definite selling feature. It only takes about 8 minutes to roll up a half a mile of our power braid behind our power arm. So that's a welcome, attribute.
Yeah. What about some of the educators as they've encountered it over the years? Some of those that have looked at it and seen it, what have been some of their uses for it or their reactions to it?
Yeah, well, I know there's quite a few educators in the U.S. that have been associated with, or they might use Powerflex on their operations ongoing. Like currently, we have a really nice relationship with Noble up in Oklahoma, or down in Oklahoma, I guess. I'm in Canada, but with Noble, they've Powerflex supports a program called the scholarship program. So obviously Noble does a lot of educating, and so Powerflex joined hands, or a little bit of a partnership to help give these education scholarships to go to a Noble education course. So that's kind of cool. And then I know we're doing quite a bit of stuff we're starting to do more, I should say, not quite a bit of stuff, but we're starting to do more with understanding ag. I know Powerflex has in the past, but more recently we've dropped some rainboard equipment into understanding ag to be using as a trial piece of equipment. So, hopefully we can get some good feedback from the producers that are, taking the education through understanding ag. We might see them on hopefully their web pages or photos and social medias, that kind of things. And then of course, Will Harris at White Oak there as well too. I know they're Powerflex. They use Powerflex on their operation, and I know Powerflex has been involved with White Oak for quite a while as well.
Yeah. One thing that I appreciate about most of those, maybe all those names you mentioned there, is they're all one of the commonalities they have, and Steve Kenyon as well, is when you ask them, what do I need to do to increase production or diversity? What do I need to plant to increase production or diversity on my operation? The first answer you're going to get from them, a lot of them, is posts. You plant posts to increase production and diversity,
Yeah.
And so they're not going to try and sell you something necessarily. They're going to say, well, if you graze more intentionally, more adaptively, you're going to see those things come over time. And so those are good names to be associated with for sure.
Yeah. Up in Canada, we he's actually obviously, like I mentioned, Norm Ward being the original owner of Range Ward, but he's also an educator of sorts too. So he's always talking about different tools to be using, and at the time he would be promoting his product as well. But so he had so many different ways of using them. They ranched down at in southern Alberta, I mentioned, and then they also had another large ranch up in northern British Columbia. So they were using razor grazers at one place and heavy duty power grazers up at the other place. So there's just a little bit of background on the versatility of the two different machines. But I mean, other educators that we might be working with. We have he's actually one of our dealers in Canada over in Manitoba. A gentleman named Aaron Nurbis at Nurbis Brothers Angus near Shellmouth, Manitoba. He's been with Range Ward dealing our equipment for maybe 4 years. I know he does some speaking as well, and he's a dealer as well too. But all our dealers are dealers, or most of our dealers are so because they enjoy the product, right? That's kind of where we started with our dealer network. What grassroots approach, speaking with educators or producers that are using similar tools. They like the concept of Range Ward, so they go that way, and then they really like it, so then they become dealers of our product, right? So there's a few other gentlemen in Saskatchewan. Rob Wonder near Foam Lake, Saskatchewan. He's got some equipment of ours, and I think he's on the Saskatchewan Soil Board. I can't remember the name of it, but anyways, he's a very influential and well-respected speaker in the whole soil health side of things as well. And yeah, there's several in Canada. I had a really cool opportunity a couple of summers ago. I met Greg Judy at a field day up here in Alberta at a family ranch called Hanson Ranch at Valley View, Alberta. And Greg and Jan were there to speak to the following of the field day that day, and it was fantastic. That was, of course, I follow Greg Judy, and that was the first I'd met him, and he just out of the blue, like he'd seen our stuff on several occasions, of course, but never firsthand. So he was intrigued, wanted the 5-cent tour, and he asked if he could video me and put it on his YouTube channel. I go, absolutely. So we did that, and that was really cool because it was just nice to spend some time with Greg and Jan, and we got a lot of traffic on that YouTube video too. So that was probably my favorite interview, aside from this one, of course.
Yeah. No, Greg, you're with your 100,000 subscribers. You can't video me. And
yeah. And then, I mean, there's on the Powerflex side, their Powerflex has been huge in the US for a long time. Range Ward has been huge in Canada for a long time. So now with us joining, like we're sister companies, and with us joining up, we're so excited about going into 2025 here because like I said, Powerflex has a huge U.S. clientele that Range Ward's now, gonna start getting to know, and vice versa in Canada. And so we're gonna be distributing Powerflex out of our DC and Stettler, Alberta, and then Powerflex distributes our equipment out of Missouri as well. We are our Range Ward headquarters now is in San Antonio, and we have a manufacturing shop at Hondo manufacturing our Range Ward equipment. We have another manufacturing facility at our DC here near Stettler, Alberta. And then, of course, Powerflex is in Seymour, Missouri, and their headquarters is also in San Antonio too. So that's kind of a brief.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Good coverage. Good North American coverage anyways, huh?
Yeah. I think we've got all the tools, and we think we've got all the tools now. So
sure. Yeah. And just talk to me about the power of these two companies together as it relates to the regenerative movement and kind of the way that they have been serving this movement over the years.
Yeah, like I said, we're really excited to be joining forces now because I mean the whole regen world is doing nothing but getting bigger and bigger and more well received, or received on a larger scale. And just with our two companies having such an array of well engineered and very specific equipment, pieces of equipment, we've literally got machines and handheld equipment for every producer, whether it be entry level, somebody just getting started, maybe budget's a thing, um, maybe budget's not a thing, maybe they're operating on huge corporate operations where there's a lot of land to cover, so they need a big machine, or right down to the smaller Powerflex line of hand reels and spinning jennies. So I think we've got all of the tools between the two companies. We've got all the tools to work in all the climates with all the geographical locations, and then we cover all the animals too.
Yeah, it really is kind of an East meets West union there. When you start to think about it with Powerflex, or with Range Ward coming from the West, in Alberta and those places, and then Powerflex coming from the East with Missouri, and really kind of just two different climates, a lot different climates and a lot different needs for those clients, and getting together and serving everybody well together. So that's kind of a cool partnership for sure.
Yeah, totally. I think that Mississippi River kind of draws a line in the sand, and we can we can really operate on both sides of it. And then having some smaller tools in our toolbox now in Canada, it really opens up the other side of the country as well. So, and we're starting to make dealer partnership, relationships over there now as well. So 2025 is really exciting. We've got a lot of cool stuff on the go, and we'll be making announcements and launches and stuff.
Yeah.
Busy. Yeah.
Yeah. When we were first getting started here, we were, just trying to make ends meet, and on a lark kind of walked into the NRCS office and asked about equip and CSP contracts and some of those things. And, one of the things that I don't think people realize is that the people in those offices tend to be pretty specialized, and they know what they know really well. But they might not know all of the things that a given contract can be done or can be used for. And so, the first answer I got was, no, we can't do temporary infrastructure with these contracts. But you ask another question of a different person and you get a different answer. And it turns out they were able to do temporary infrastructure with I don't remember if it was just the CSP or not, but anyways, with the contract we were able to do temporary infrastructure. So I think that's one of the things that people should recognize too, is just make sure you're asking the right question, being persistent, and find the people who understand these specific programs and what they're capable of, and then using them. And I think that's probably where Range Ward, Powerflex both have infrastructure that can be used in conjunction with some of those programs. Is that true in your experience?
Yeah, no, totally. So I don't know the whole, I try to keep my finger on the Canadian programs, and I pay attention when our US side is talking about the American programs. I know that I hear what you're saying. The sometimes temporary fencing is covered under equip, sometimes it's not, but I think it's kind of a state by state, or maybe even a county by county situation. Like, as on a whole, I know equip covers perimeter fence, like permanent fence, and water systems, which obviously Powerflex covers both of those. But as far as the cross fencing or temporary situations within those permanent, it was a little bit of an uncharted, like kind of a gray area that we're really trying to find the answers to. And that's what we're finding, is if you got to dig deep and ask around, and I think it is becoming more available. So we just got to keep on that. And in a lot of cases, like I've seen in Canada too, where it might come down to, a lot of it might come to the producer requests, or the more producers that are asking for to see this happen. I think that's when things will start really changing, because when myself or Nathan, our US sales director, or our CEOs or whatever, we're talking to NRCS all the time. But of course, it sounds like a sales pitch, but really we're just trying to make sure that the producers have the correct tools that they want. And but it does still sound like we're trying to sell it, and so it needs to come from the producers. So we're spending a lot of time talking with producers at at big shows and expos, getting as much publicity, or not publicity, exposure at the right conferences, and talking about these programs, and asking them to be talking with their NRCS reps in their areas.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. That is, I think, just keep asking the right questions, and I think there's opportunity for sure. So, well, Neil, anything else that you wanted to cover today?
Actually, here's something that's pretty exciting too, where there's a company out in New Zealand called Strainright. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Yep.
Largely, Canada doesn't really know about them. There is Strainright product in Canada, but these producers have sourced it directly and brought it in from New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, Range Board Canada is now going to be the Canadian distributor for Strainright. So I'm going to be working with our dealer networks and implementing or putting Strainright equipment on the shelves in our stores. Like, we've got a nice dealer network of over 20 federated co-op stores in Canada, and then maybe about another 10 or so direct producer or like producer dealers, off the farm dealers. And so hopefully we can start moving Strainright that way. And Strainright's also in the Powerflex lineup as well too. So I'm pretty excited about bringing Strainright on.
Yeah, no, that is great. I was not familiar with the brand until very recently, and they're getting mentioned more and more, it seems like. So what are some of the things that they're known for and that people really like having from Strainright?
Yeah. Okay. So I also have just been learning over the last 6 or 8 months about them, and I've as Range Ward, we use bits and pieces of their product, integrated them into our machines, like some insulator clips and some posts and whatnot, that kind of thing. And as I get to know them now, I see their extensive tool side. So they have a lot of equipment, a lot of tools, engineered and built for the construction industry, like fence construction on a contractor levels. So we've got contractor grade tools to be used for building fence, and then as well as kind of a narrowed down SKU list of your everyday handheld equipment, handheld tools, hand reels, insulators, posts, high tensile wire, spinning jennies, all of the things, right? And Strainright started from as an engineering company, and so they engineer their own products and manufacture their own products in New Zealand, and then now they've been distributing around the world prior to this, and have started making arrangements to get it into Canada. So we're excited about that. It's top quality product. Largely, it's going to be less expensive than anything that's on the market, because they do their own engineering and their own manufacturing. So, pretty excited about bringing those on.
And a high degree of quality control for sure. When you start doing your own engineering and your manufacturing, you get exactly what you want.
Exactly, that's right. I mean, it really fits in with the Range Ward model and the Powerflex model. Strainright has the same mentality, same business model. Passionate about our producers, who at the end of the day, that's who we're working for. We're really just, as the three companies, we're just really trying to get the right tools for the producers. I mean, we're passionate about ranching, and we're dedicated to our ranchers.
Yep. Very good. Well, Neil, thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for meeting with me. It was fun.
Very good stuff there with Neil. Really appreciate him taking the time to join me and share on some of the lessons he's learned and some of the ways that he has been able to serve clients with great products from outfits like Range Ward and Powerflex over the years. Very excited to welcome back to the podcast, Lord willing, on Monday we'll be talking to Burke Teichert once again. and really excited to share this conversation with you. Coming your way real soon on another episode of the Working Cows Podcast. We'll see you then.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.